Hello guys, welcome on our next stream. I'm Lubomir Valik. I'm a teacher in Prague Economics and Business. Yeah, now it should be better, so I will start again. I'm sorry for that. So hello guys, welcome on our next stream. I'm Lubomir Valik. Maybe you already heard me. So I'm a teacher on Prague University of Economics and Business. And today we are live on a discussion with our guest, Mr. Matěj Žák. He is a head of product in Trezor, and he's most of the time working on the logic and interface of new Trezor products, mostly probably Trezor Suite. And just something about this discussion. The discussion is part of our practical seminar, Bitcoin and Blockchain, that is led on a Faculty of International Relations. And we are streaming several discussions like this with different experts from crypto industry. The discussion will be led by our moderating team that is pre-selected from our students. And I can already see them here in our Teams class meeting, but due to GDPR regulation, we are streaming or maybe capturing only my account as a teacher and account of our guest. And if you are a student and you would like to be seen on our stream as well, you are required to wear a Guy Fawkes mask to not be recognized. So that's all from me. And now I'm just passing the mic to Matěj and to the discussion team. So enjoy the discussion, guys.
Thanks. So it's not the COVID, it's the GDPR actually that makes us wear the masks. Interesting. Should I introduce myself or the discussion team wants to kick off this discussion?
Let's get on the discussion team, maybe just to raise question.
Hello, Matěj. We first introduce our format of our discussion, and then you can introduce yourself.
Awesome.
I'm happy that you all come to this debate. Today we will discuss with Matěj Žák. As has been said, Matěj works as head of production in Satoshi Lab, and he is connected to Trezor, which will be mentioned. Hello, Matěj. I would like to thank you that you join our discussion. And I will introduce what will we discuss today. Our first moderator will be Adam, who will ask you about your background and about your projects. Then we'll continue Jan with his question about your attitude to crypto. After that, we will move to some more specific question with Jonáš, who will ask you about Trezor hardware wallet. And finally, Alexei will have some questions about the slash pool. And at the end of discussion, there will be about 15 minutes for questions from the audience with me as a moderator. For the audience, you can ask our guests directly, or there is also possibility to use Slido. You can find the link in the main thread in Teams, and I will send it again to our chat here. I hope you all like our discussion, and now let me give the floor to Matěj, who can introduce yourself, and then to Adam with first block of questions. Thank you.
Perfect. Many thanks. Hello, everyone. So let me just introduce myself real quick because I guess there are some questions about my background. So I won't dive into that too deep. But yeah, so my background is actually, interestingly enough, I guess, in music. I have studied classical guitar at the conservatory. But also early on, I got interested, in startups and in technology in general, and IT, I would say. So I started studying music business as well. I went to the Academy of Performing Arts in Prague for a music management bachelor's, and then was lucky enough to get a scholarship at Berklee College of Music in Boston, actually, during my bachelor. So that was kind of amazing for me because it's like a dream school for every jazz musician, I guess, because I started studying jazz as well. And then one thing led to another, and I actually applied for the master's at Berklee College of Music in Valencia, in Spain, because they opened their master's program there. That was music business program as well, and I actually kind of went into the course or into the degree with the vision of starting or joining, a startup, whatever that means. But and that actually happened. So I was lucky enough to set up an actual product and a company with my classmates. There was a live streaming app. Again, one thing led to another, and then I, through an investor, I started, once this project was done, because for some reason it didn't really took off. I tried to build first e-bike sharing program in Prague. That was a massive fail. I can talk about in details about that, but yeah, it was kind of a story. And then through an IT agency that I worked with, I didn't really like that job, but I eventually ended up in Satoshi Labs and Trezor, and it's been amazing so far. I actually just, I think yesterday or this week, sort of celebrated the second year in Satoshi Labs in the product management position. So yeah, so that's me. Here I am.
Oh, wow, thank you. So yeah, I was planning to ask you about all of these, but you basically mentioned a lot of a lot of topics I wanted to talk about. So yeah, when I was doing research on you, I was surprised that you were studying, first of all, in the US, which is not, I guess, very common, and the second, that you were studying at Berklee College of Music. So so yeah, were you planning to become a musician first, or what was your intention there?
Yeah, so I mean, I started playing guitar at the age of 7. My parents were very supportive in that regard. I think I think my father, as it happens, he used to play guitar as well. So, and I actually wanted to play drums early on, but it wasn't possible because we were just living in a small flat. So guitar was kind of a sort of a natural pick for me because I saw my father playing blues and I really liked that. And then I guess through some kind of luck, a bit of talent, but mostly hard work, I guess I got to on a professional path, with guitar. So, I was winning these, competitions and whatever. But it was mostly classical music. And so yeah, for some time I thought it would be a viable kind of career. But honestly, I have always been kind of too curious about other things. Whereas, in especially classical music, you just gotta practice for like 8-10 hours a day, and that's basically it. That's what you are doing all the time. But already on, in high school or something, I was organizing all kind of events and I don't know, like a photography competitions or whatever. So I was really in arts management, basically. I actually applied for for the arts management, bachelor's at Visha as well. I didn't get accepted, and so I wanted to KU and eventually Berkeley.
Okay, thank you. So, so you said you started your career in Flitz Life, was it, which you co-founded? Yeah.
Right.
And could you tell me something about this project, or you briefly mention it, or just generally how difficult is it to start like your project at? Was it in the US? Did you start it there, or was it in Czech Republic?
This was actually in Spain, because in US I was for the bachelor's, like as a scholarship in Boston, and then from there I applied for the master's in Spain. By the way, you might be also wondering, and it's actually part of the story how we all co-founded this, but it's actually a private school, right? So I had to pay everything for the master's, and I just paid off the debt like a couple months ago. So it's been quite a, it definitely cost me something, but yeah, I took a loan from a bank and everything. But back to the question. I was kind of lucky to find this guy in my program who was, let's say, like 5-6 years older than me. He was pretty experienced, already, because he had been kind of he was a German guy, and he kind of, brought this idea how to sort of discover events. For example, if you travel to New York City, and you're wondering what's happening around you, he thought like it would be cool, to have this app which would tell you, what's happening around you. So that was kind of the initial idea, but we brought the technological perspective to it as well, and we thought, we could probably build like a live streaming engine where you could actually see what's happening around you, and on top of that, we thought, well, it should not only work for the kind of end user who is trying to discover the events, but also for the artists that could live stream their shows, and then broadcast it through the network and actually get paid for it. It would be probably helpful in this pandemic situation. But yeah, so that was the original idea. The technology though was kind of interesting because we enabled sort of crowd live streaming. So if you imagine you would live stream with 5 or 10 mobile phones or mobile apps at one time, the live stream would get crowdsourced in the one video, so you could see all the live streams, as they were happening at the same time. So that was kind of the basic, the kind of gist of the product. If I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was thinking about the same thing. Like during the pandemic, this app would be more useful, like during this lockdown and stuff. And my last personal question, then we'll move on to more, I don't know, technical questions and more the questions about what you do now. I am still curious about what the Hill project and why was it such a failure, if you can summarize it, or like give us advice of what not to do when we start our own projects,
Yeah, that's a good question. So so this whole thing came about by me searching for investors for the previous project. So with this live streaming app, you are looking for investors, and I got introduced to this person, like a investor from Czech Republic. When the live streaming app wasn't really taking off, and I really wanted to like change projects, then I started working with this investor, and I first started working on sort of portfolio of his projects. They have some payment app there, some data centers, all over the place basically. But yeah, I was always interested in like IT and kind of technology and scalability. So we were thinking of what is the next sort of problem that we want to solve on the Czech market, and came to this bike idea, because also I'm a big fan of cycling. So I guess that was also a natural sort of step for me. And the basic idea was Prague is hilly. It's not raining as often as people think. It's not. People not using bicycles in Prague. Usually the argument was, it's too hilly, or it's too rainy, or it's shitty roads. that still persists kind of, but the others are not as true as you think, because hills basically it can get solved by the engine. And me being a cyclist, I don't really have an e-bike, but I gotta say that I don't know if you guys tried an e-bike, but it's really cool. You just get sweat free from meeting to meeting. So even for sport oriented people, it is definitely a good kind of mode of transportation in the city, such as Prague. So yeah, that was sort of the problem that we wanted to solve, right? Like how to get people on bikes in the hilly city, and so hence the name what the hill. And then so it was basically a bootstrap in terms of financing, and also something you guys may know better than me about, but the convertible loans. Basically, we got all different like bunch of investors. There was around 5 or 6 people that would sort of lend us money for the project, and it would get converted into the equity if under certain conditions, But back to the question as why it was such a failure. I think the real problem was the scalability. It was the project itself was very underfinanced, I would say. I think the goals were very ambitious, but we had only, 15 bikes and about $1.5 million in investment, which, for a small team, for people, that's not really a lot, and we had to buy the bikes as well. So it didn't really scale. Also, there's the technology, such as a simple app that would open the locks on the bicycles, and that you could try, sort of localize them in the city. It is something, again, it's not like hard, like innovation wise, or it is not a hard technological problem. But still, to build something like that, in a custom way, it takes time and it takes money, which we didn't have, honestly. So we kind of relied on outsourcing on everything. So we built we actually bought this like ready-made logs that you could use their app, but the development was kind of slow, so it was blocking our kind of growth. So we were mainly surviving on a offline rental, basically. So the tourists would come to the office and they could rent the bikes. But we really weren't like growing fast, and as a result, we were not able to get more investors on the board. So the project kind of started dying out, and then eventually it was pretty hard on me as well, because honestly, I was in charge of all this money that the investors gave us. And I mean, from a business perspective, it's not a huge amount, but if you think about the individual investors, it's definitely not not a nice conversation to have if you have to tell somebody that you are actually not going to repay or give them back the investment that they made. So I ended up sort of sleeping in the office, basically jobless for like 6 months, because I was trying to fix everything, but I didn't really have money, so I was kind of surviving. I mean, it's like a typical startup story. I really lived in the office with the bikes, tried to do as much as I could, but it ended up to like a pretty tough burnout for me. But yeah, I definitely learned a great deal of about people, their motivations, about management, and all that. So I no regrets.
Oh, wow, that's an interesting story. Well, thank you for that, for this overview. And I guess this is all from me. And now we'll move on to actually crypto and these other topics. And so I'm passing word to Honza, who will ask you.
So hi, just before we pass to crypto, I would just like to ask you one more question about these past projects. Could you, if you could, is there something that you would like to pass to us that you learned during these early projects, that maybe some kind of mistake that you would like that we don't do again, or something like that?
Yeah, so I think, it's a really good question, because I was, of course, like making my own sort of retrospective of what I could have done better, or what was really wrong. And I think number one would be probably following the intuitions about people, because I just thought, sometimes I would be working with somebody, for example, some of investors, co-founders, and I was like, and sometimes I had this bad feeling that it's not really, not clicking in a way, like about how we think about the project and where the values are and how we should scale it or something like this. So I think it comes down to intuition, when you feel like you really click with someone and you really feel like, you see the things differently, or like similarly. I mean, you can disagree, because I think disagreements are really important along the way. Like, that's 100% sure, but still, like, if the values are correct, then you should probably work with those people. But if they are not, it just didn't work for me. I like, in like 100% of the cases where I thought, I don't know if I should work with the person or not, I ended up sort of regretting it. So yeah, intuition would be probably one, and the other that comes to mind is like getting kind of experience from a really experienced people, basically. Because at the kind of beginning of my career, I was trying to do everything myself, in the sense that I would have a project in mind or something, and I would just go for it, and I would try to build everything on my own, and etc. But now, when I joined much bigger and much more mature companies, I just see like the growth kind of exponential for me personally, because I can learn from much more experienced people, for example. So, and of course, one way to get the experience on the team, or on the early on, would be to actually getting a mentor, for example, from some external company or whatever. But in the end, I think you really need to work with somebody on a daily basis to like speed your growth, to speed up your growth. So I'm kind of regretting that at our kind of early days, I was in a too small team and doing too many things on my own. So the advice would be, don't do that. Try to work with amazing people.
Amazing, thank you. So let's move on to cryptocurrencies. And first, I would like to speak about cryptocurrencies in general and your point of view and your opinions about cryptocurrencies. And the first, maybe kind of universal, but even though kind of interesting question is, when did you first became interested in cryptocurrencies? So not only that you have heard something about Bitcoin, or something that I believe you heard fairly early on, as you said that you are kind of interested in these technologies and such. So when did you first thought about it and found it that it's something that you care about, something that you find interesting?
Yeah, so actually, I have to say that would be 2 years ago when I joined the company, because I knew about Bitcoin, of course, years before that, and I was kind of passively interested in the topic and in investments in general, in finance, I would say, because I like finance and it's cool. And so into the whole area, of course, I was interested, but like to really get on board as almost like a Bitcoin maximalist, as they call themselves, or kind of diving into the philosophies and stuff like that. So that would be 2 years ago when I joined the company as a first product manager.
Okay, and when you joined the company 2 years ago, what was the thing that you found interesting about Bitcoin, if you are, as you said, Bitcoin maximalist? Or
so yeah, I think the really interesting challenge for me personally was that there were these like two super nice founders. You could tell they were humble people. So coming back to, I was like, yeah, these are nice people, and I wanted to work with them. So that was one. And they kind of presented me with this challenge. We have this app, or we are starting to build this app. It was like basically nothing. It didn't have any UI or anything. It was just an idea. And we really want to bring this to the mainstream. We want to make Bitcoin accessible to the mainstream. So what's interesting for me, in Bitcoin is basically the challenge of making it accessible. So kind of sort of like detecting, or how to say it, like there's this like aura around it that it's too technical or something, and it kind of is, but we're basically working, day in, day out to fix that, or to not really. I mean, there's not really nothing to be fixed. It's more like how to present it in a way that it's more accessible to millions and millions of users around the world.
Okay, so if you are a Bitcoin maximalist and you see the most interesting thing, you think that the most interesting thing is spreading the Bitcoin to the masses, to the mainstream, may I just ask you if you think that Bitcoin should be presented to the mainstream as like an investment asset, or rather as a form of mean of exchange or a currency?
Yeah, that's a good question. I kind of believe it can be in all of those three that you said. First, I mean, Bitcoin price grew, I don't know by how many percent, but from what is it, like $10,000 to 50 this year alone, or 2020. So it's an amazing investment, right? If you were early on, and of course, even if you started even before that, it's an amazing investment. But eventually, you would be probably want to. I mean, and it's called hodling. I guess you know the term, but you can hodl, and that's fine. But and we actually, in what we are doing, we try to kind of build features that that allows you to hodl kind of safely. So, but I guess we will get that later. But what the whole product does, but. So that's one way. But on the other hand, we also build features, meaning we believe it's also a currency that you can do, you can use on a daily basis, that enables you to, spend and make the transaction really, in a kind of an easy way. And there are, sort of innovations in Bitcoin alone in, such as Lightning. I guess you heard about that as well. It's like a network built on top of, like another layer on top of Bitcoin that makes the transaction really fast and really cheap, because the one of the main constraints why Bitcoin is not really a perfect kind of mean of for transaction is it gets expensive. It can get expensive in the transaction. In its transaction. So, and Lightning is, basically solving this problem. So you can actually see this year popping new and new Lightning projects, and mainly mobile apps, which make it really like a peer-to-peer payment. Okay.
And talking about this development interaction of new features into the Trezor and the environment, is there some kind or was there, or do you know about any government like decision that would really like impact your work or make it harder or easier?
Not really our government, as far as I know, but I mean, we are a global product, and like 100%, like a sort of 80% of the sales comes from US. So, but yeah, we are basically being used globally. So. I think it was Indian government that announced some restriction on Bitcoin, and like that you are basically not able to or not allowed officially to hold some Bitcoin. And Turkey, I think it was the other one. So, I mean, I don't know exactly, but basically the point being is, yes, we are seeing on the market sort of the government trying to lure in the space and regulate it more. And as a basic philosophy, we are against that, because that's something that Bitcoin, is by nature trying to be decentralized and trying to be basically not regulated at all. So that is something that we are trying to solve in some of our development as well. For example, on the roadmap, it should be developed in sort of late summer, but we I'm introducing a feature that's called conjoin. I don't know if you heard of it, but basically it enables the users to mix the transaction. So if you send a transaction, it gets mixed with other transactions, And at the end, even if you look at on the blockchain, you cannot really tell which transaction came, from point A to point B. You don't know which one came where. So it's technically anonymizing the whole transaction set. So I'm saying it's basically, governments are trying to regulate. We will always try to bring features that legally, of course, try to kind of go against this movement.
Okay, and you mentioned that your like 80% of your sales basically takes place in the United States, which naturally means that the United States are your most important market. And may I ask you what the other important markets are for Trezor? Like maybe just like top 3 or something like that, because it might be interesting to know if, for example, in India so the population is so big, then maybe what are the other countries?
Very good question. So so the other big markets are Russia and Germany, UK, France, and sort of Latin America. But yeah, we are, again, something that we're working on. We want to bring also the sort of translation and localization into the product. That's something we are working on right now, because right now it's just English, and some of the older apps that we built are translated by the community, but we want to introduce other languages and sort of organically to allow the product grow into the other markets. And probably I can see that happening next year, but we would be more aggressive in a growth in those markets. But for now, we are just like a Czech-based company. We don't really have a sales teams anywhere else, but in Czech Republic.
Okay, thank you. And the last question before we move on to the more technical or in-depth questions about Trezor. Let me ask you the natural question. If you are basically in the development of a crypto-connected product, do you personally own any cryptocurrencies, or are some cryptocurrencies in your portfolio?
Yeah, sure. So I think I would be a bad product manager if I wasn't, playing with my own product. So I try to, I definitely hold some Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other sort of altcoins that we support, and in the Trezor suite, which is like the app that we are building. But I try to play with as many things as I can get a hold onto. I don't know, I buy stuff on Oza with Bitcoin, which you can do, and I think they support Litecoin as well. So I do all kind of things just to play with the products, to see where the pain points are for the users, and I'm kind of critically evaluating what we could do better or what we could introduce, or actually even where the opportunities for us are. For example, in Trezor Suite we have also exchanges and buy features. So basically you can purchase some crypto right there. So that is like we always think about this. We are building this ecosystem, which, and by nature as a product manager, I really need to get into all the facets and the corners and explore it and play with it.
Okay, thank you very much. So let me pass the mic to Jonas. Thank you.
Sure.
Hello, thank you for passing me the word. In this part, we will talk about your work in Satoshi Labs. First of all, I would like to ask you what is your daily routine in Satoshi Labs as head of product, and what problems you try to solve?
So so my schedule is kind of busy. So that means coming from meeting to meeting, because meetings are sort of a medium of managerial work. And I'm in charge mainly. There would be like 60-70% of my work would be on Trezor Suite itself. And you guys might heard of it or not, but we are in a Scrum, which is like a agile development process that is used by the development teams. and the product is basically part of this whole agile methodology. Agile meaning that you can move things in an iterative way, and you can be kind of flexible on what you're trying to build around your users' needs. So my basically work, a typical day would be, I wake up at like 8 a.m. I try to I jump on the first meeting of the day, which is called stand up. That's part of the agile methodology that I just described, with the whole development team. We would discuss what are the goals for the day, what we've accomplished yesterday. And it's a fairly short meeting, it would be like 10-15 minutes. So we would get kind of aligned on what the priorities are for the day, and we would jump on the work. Then I would say 50% of my of the sort of the remaining time that's not like meetings that supposed to get decision or move with some initiative in any direction, would be making specs, which is basically writing the requirements for the designers, sort of hearing to our UX researchers, which are listening to our UX researchers, meaning they would provide me with a feedback on certain features that we built, or feature requests basically that we gather from the community. And I would write all these down, make some sort of executive decision on what are the priorities, and then I would. That's probably my favorite part of the job, would be talking with the UX and UI designer, and really like envisioning how the features should behave and how they should look as well. So that's the user experience and user interface, where it links all together. And that's probably the most creative part of the whole process, which I love the most, honestly, because that's really where you get to play with, with the colors, like in malování, or like these tools are called. I mean, we are using Figma. It's probably the best design tool right now. But so that's pretty much how the day looked for me.
You are doing home office only, right?
These days, yes. I mean, we have an office in Libeń. It's Prague 9, I think 8. And then, but yeah, like these days we are mostly in home offices. Yeah.
So thank you for your answer. My second question is about your main company product, which is Trezor, hardware wallet. I wonder why it's important to have a hardware wallet, and what type of risks there are if you have your crypto on MetaMask or Coinbase wallet instead of having it on Trezor.
Perfect. Yeah, so basically, there's this famous claim that the community of hardware wallet users use, or hardware wallet manufacturers and everybody else, but not your keys, not your coins. That's the claim. What that means is basically, if you buy Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency on Coinbase, you basically your keys to the or technically they are keys, like in software development terms, they rest on Coinbase servers somewhere. If those servers get hacked and somebody steal your keys from the Bitcoin funds, then you have nothing. So basically, if you don't own these keys, you don't really own the asset per se. So, and that's the main problem that Trezor solves for millions of users around the world. It stores your private keys super securely on the device. So sometimes there's this kind of urban myth that the yes, this is the device. It basically give you an idea how it looks. So there's this myth that somehow the Bitcoin is stored on your device. That's not true. The device is stored. The Bitcoin is stored on the blockchain, on the Bitcoin blockchain, which is like a decentralized network, and nodes that connects to each other and make the transaction. So this device itself, it just holds the keys to the blockchain network. So that's that's the main sort of technological advantage of it. You can connect it to your computer, with a cable, but that cable or the device is never online, so it's you cannot really hack it in any way. It's connected. I mean, there's just like a binary connection between the cable and the between the computer and the device. So it's really not, it's never online. So it's basically unhackable in a certain way. So yeah, that's the core idea of the product.
Yeah, I know that there are two most known hardware wallets, your Trezor and Ledger Nano S. Are there any differences between them, and why should we purchase Trezor instead of Ledger, and what is more safe?
Well, you should definitely purchase Trezor, of course. First, it's Czech company, so show some love to your fellow Czech startup people. I'm just kidding, but yeah, the biggest kind of advantage, and why is this a better device than Ledger has currently, I believe, is mainly the fact that this one, the Model T, has a touch display. So you can, navigate with through the device and in the interface on its touch screen, which is really, really comfortable. And that's honestly, that's sort of the biggest part of my job, is making the products user friendly and accessible. So meaning we really want to build the usability as good as possible. So and the touch display is a big part of it, because for example, just give you an idea how the device works. So for example, if you want to receive Bitcoin to your address, you go to Trezor Suite. That's the app. It's like an interface. You hover on the receive button or receive tab, and the computer would show you the address, and it actually shows you the address, but it also asks you to verify it on Trezor. So the display here lights up, and it shows you the actual address, the Bitcoin address that the funds should be sent to. It's like a 32 characters numbers, and it basically tells you to verify that what you are seeing on your computer and what you are about to copy and paste somewhere, you also see on the display. So that's basically one of the security measures, one of the many security measures that's built in the whole ecosystem. And then again, that's why the touch displays really comes in handy.
Could you please tell us what is the vision of Satoshi Labs, and what are its goals for the future with Trezor and other projects, and what is your relationship with founders?
Yeah, so the vision is every Bitcoin in Trezor. So we want to be like the sort of ultimate and ecosystem for all the users that there are. We are also building, I mentioned this a couple of times, but we really think of it as an ecosystem. So even if you are a total novice user, if you've never really heard about hardware wallets, or you just trying to buy your first Bitcoin or something, we build a set of features that should enable you to do that. Such as the buy exchanges and stuff like that. So you can exchange between different currencies and even sell the crypto as well. So the sort of the ecosystem thinking around all the needs that any type of user might need, regardless of their maturity, or as a crypto person. That's sort of a key in the whole vision and the philosophy of the company. As for the relationship with the founders, I think from my perspective, I don't know what they would say towards me, but it couldn't have been better. I really like those guys. I think it's really an honor to work with somebody who really founded the industry, because they were the first one to introduce hardware wallets and the concepts, and also the standards that the guys built. Like the cryptography standards that are built in the firmware, like the software in this device, are being used around the world in basically every hardware wallets, and not only hardware wallets but also in the software world. So yeah, again, it's been a sort of a humble experience for me to work with somebody that really, like started something really huge, and contributed to it, to the whole industry in this sort of amazing way. And also, I think you asked about the values as well. We are an open source project or an open source company, meaning that all the code, all the sort of the specification about these devices, it's everything online and publicly available on GitHub, and anybody can really copy anything from it. But it's sort of the value of the company is that everything should be open, and anybody and everybody could, if they wanted, to contribute to the development as well as use it for their own kind of use and projects.
My last question is about the Tropic Square project. I read that some Swiss company gave you 5 million euros for this project. So could you please describe us and tell us some information about it?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I described this the ecosystem, right? The sort of the features that are for the total novices, but this chip manufacturer, or that we are trying to build an open source chip, and again coming back to the open source and the importance of it. Sort of the whole industry of chip makers, because the chips that are in these things are. We don't make them. It's basically a manufacturer, and it's our contractor that we buy the chips from. The problem with these things is that the whole industry, the whole sort of ASIC and the sort of the chip chip makers industry is layered in NDAs, and it's something against our philosophy, because you don't really. You don't know really how how these things are built. Like you cannot go really into like a detail about what kind of it contains of, and then it's a problematic from our standpoint of view, where we say be in charge and be sort of your own bank in a way. So when somebody such as these manufacturers tell us that they want to allow us to kind of look into what we are buying from them, it's something against the philosophy, and really something we don't like. And ultimately, the Tropic Square company is trying to fix this by building, for like a first open source chip, which is really, really hard to do and really expensive to do. So that's, it's a really big problem that they're trying to solve. But yeah, they just by like raising this much money quite easily, that's also sort of a validation that the industry is, or there are some people that they are willing to like disrupt the industry in a significant way, which is great to hear for us.
Thank you for your answers. That's all from me, and I'm passing the word to my colleague.
Thanks.
Okay, so I think it's me now. Hello, Matěj. It's nice to meet you here. My teammate said I'm going to ask you about the slash pool, but since our teacher informed us that you might not be familiar with this, I might stick to some Trezor questions. So my first question would be, is that Trezor has two wallets, basically, two models, Trezor 1 and Trezor Model T. But Model T supports more cryptocurrencies, and such things as Monero, Ripple, and EOS are not available on Trezor 1. So why does it happen? And is there like something about the technology that doesn't help Trezor 1 to support these currencies, or is there any other reason?
Got it. Thanks a lot. That's a good question. Also, thanks for sticking to Trezor, not Slashpool, because I literally know nothing about Slashpool. It's a company that the founder of Selfish Labs founded as well, like 10 years ago, I think, and he's actually sold it, I think, quite recently. So yeah. Back to your question. So we are actually working on fixing this. The different models. I think I have the one here as well. No, I don't. But so the Model T, which is this one, and the T, and the one that is like a smaller, they run on a different firmware. Firmware is like the sort of like the operating system of the device that's inside. And since they are different things, they are different like computer programs, you cannot really easily, like connect them. But it's actually something that we are working on fixing. So they should actually run from one computer in a way, and then the same cryptocurrencies will be most likely supported on both of the models. So, but very like TLDR, to your question is basically a technical debt, that we have to pay off and fix this. So.
Okay, thank you for the answer. And second question is also going to be about the cryptos you support. So basically, on your website, it says that you support around like 1,700 cryptocurrencies. And my question is, based on what do you add coins to your wallet? So is it like their popularity? Maybe it's based on what the users vote for, or something else.
Yeah, that's a good question as well, because that's a hot topic for us as a product team, because it's really hard to make the judgment because there's new cryptocurrencies appearing basically on a monthly basis. There's always something new that some teams would reach out to us and they would want to get implemented into our ecosystem. The problem with that is, first, there's some upfront cost that, it really costs some money to implement the coin into the ecosystem. So that's one problem, because it can be really like a month of worth of work of a development team. Which, if you consider, like the salaries and everything, it can get really costly. The other problem is maintenance. So once you implement the cryptocurrency, then you have to implement it as not to, pardon my French, not to fuck up your users, because they, if you, for example, you start using coin whatever, you would MS some assets there, and then you would stop supporting it. So we would be basically screwed, and you would have to move the fund somewhere else. So that's that would be bad. So yeah, kind of explaining why this is like a really important topic for us. The question is, we want to support different use cases, different cryptocurrencies basically behave in different ways. So we try to build a sort of. Our approach is more conservative, as opposed to, for example, Ledger, where they really implement everything as fast as possible. We are trying to support, the interesting use cases and sort of the cryptocurrencies that proved to be working and improving the whole philosophy in some significant way, as opposed to implementing everything that comes around corner and and hustling to get it there as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you. So the third question, it may be somewhat similar to the one my teammate asked you before, but you mentioned that you have some cryptocurrencies in your portfolio, and my question is, if you use it as an investing tool, or maybe you use it to save your funds, or like to pay for something. So how do you operate with your crypto?
Yeah, so it reminds me one story that's related to this, and it kind of explains how I think about it and some of the mistakes that I made. So at the end of this year, our company was doing well, and they were paying off some bonuses, right? Which was nice. Everybody, all the employees in the company got some. And at the time, the Bitcoin was around, it actually jumped to, I think, around $20,000 per Bitcoin. And so, and we as employees of the company, we can actually, get paid in Bitcoin if we, decide to get a certain percentage of the salary or the whole salary, depending on total and every one of employees. But we can get that. And so we got these bonuses at the end of the year, and Bitcoin jumped to 20,000. And I was like, nah, I'm not like getting, paid in Bitcoin, not even a bit, because it will go down, again, because I knew it was around, 10,000, and in 2 months it basically jumped to 50. So, so I think basically what I'm trying to say is, I think we are still in a sort of early days of Bitcoin, and it will still grow. So I would describe myself as a hodler. I'm not really like spending that much on Bitcoin. I'm playing with it, with different transactions and buying stuff on Oza, as I mentioned, and stuff. But I'm trying to mostly like build it as a solid sort of percentage in the whole portfolio. But yeah, I learned that maybe even if it's like 50,000 now, which I'm buying again, and I still think it's a good investment. So, but I mean, it's not an investment advice, I think I should add, because I'm not an like a advisor in any way, of course.
Okay, thank you for the story. And my fourth question, it's the last one from me, is going to be maybe about your family. So as you mentioned, your parents told you like how to play guitar or something. You grew in the environment. And so once you were learning for a musician, then you transferred to work in Trezor and IT companies, let's say. And how did your parents react to, like, what's their opinion on cryptocurrencies? Because from my own experience, I can tell that I heard about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency maybe in late 2017 or something like that, when Bitcoin was around like $6,000, and I bought like 0.1, and it costed me quite a lot, like for a guy who goes to school and has his all savings in Bitcoin. And when I told it to my father, he was like very critical, and he said like, I'm gonna lose my money, all my money, and gonna get nothing. But then when it started to grow, my father started to look for cryptocurrencies. He started reading news and such things, and got a bit more involved in crypto. And now he's investing like time to time, and looking for info to improve his knowledge. So my question is basically, if your parents or family or friends got somehow involved in the cryptocurrency, and what was their initial thoughts about it?
Yeah, so first, congratulations on proving your father wrong.
Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, my parents, honestly, they, initially they were kind of sad that I'm not aiming for, being a professional musician any longer, even though I still play concerts in a jazz band, and we play, like, I would say, sort of professional level concerts, but it's mainly for fun. So I think initially they were sad that I'm not pursuing this path, like a full time. But eventually, I think, they are good parents. I'm lucky to have good parents, and they are happy for me being happy. And honestly, I'm very happy in the space because for its philosophical values, but also I love really product management. I love to build new things. That's like the most satisfying thing ever for me. So, so yes, as I see that they are, they are happy when I'm happy, and I'm pretty happy. So, but yeah, they. Themselves, they don't really, I think they're still pretty conservative investors. So I'm guessing most of their funds would be probably still, some mutual funds at best, in some banks. So I think they're not investing in crypto. I'm pretty sure they don't, but yeah, I should do what you've done, and maybe show them the good way.
What about your friends? Have you changed maybe their minds in a way that they started investing and getting involved in crypto?
Yeah, interesting. So I got my girlfriend to buy some. Actually, I bought some for her, and and then yeah, I think my friends kind of start asking about. I think usually the story is that they would buy. You would start maybe even on not even on Coinbase, but where you actually can send the funds from an exchange to exchange, but maybe on Revolut, which is what we call a custodial solution, where they really you cannot really even send the bitcoins out of Revolut if you buy them there. So I have a bunch of friends that start doing that once I kind of we're talking about Bitcoin in pub or something where we get together. Yeah, so I can see that around myself.
Okay, thank you for your answers. It was kind of interesting and entertaining. Also, I think our teacher asked you a question in the chat, so I can read it for you. So he asked you if you're solving the problem of too high security, as there are some cases where a beginner creates several passphrases to increase security, but then forgets or cannot access his or her funds in hidden wallets. And is it a problem that is happening? And if so, do you alert your users so there's risks in the same way as to risks of not storing seed online?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, because I just mentioned my girlfriend that I bought some Bitcoin for her, and then she actually lost it due to the what your teacher described to the passphrase. So actually, maybe you should explain this concept real quick, what passphrase is and how it all works. So I mentioned that this device holds your private keys. As with the physical keys, that's basically like a key to the world of the blockchain, that the funds are stored on blockchain and you can open them with the keys stored on this device. You can back up the keys by writing down actually 24 words. It's kind of non-intuitive, but basically when you try to back up the device, for example, if you would lose the device, you would lose the keys. But there is a way to make a backup, and that's something that is called recovery seed. And basically, this device will show on the screen 24 randomly generated words out of like a dictionary of, I think, 2000. And if you back and then if you lose the device, you can take just another Trezor, you type those words back into the device, and your keys are restored. So that's basically the cryptographical innovation that happened there, and that's the standard that the founders actually came up with. Well, and on top of that, so you write these words down, you store them somewhere safely so nobody can really steal them, somewhere at home or wherever, or in a physical bank when it comes to that. But even then, when somebody would get to the backup to those 24 words, if, for example, I gave you my 24 words from this device, and you would just take it, paste it, in another device, you would have an access to all my funds. And we built another security feature that solves this problem. It's called passphrase, and it's basically sort of like a password on top of those 24 words, which you basically add a 25th phrase. It can be a word, number, or whatever, and it creates a total different set of private keys. So you have those 24, you add one more, and the whole sort of derivative process is changes the private keys to totally something else. The problem is that if you send all your funds to this passphrase and then you forget it, or you like mistype it or whatever, actually there are some sort of security measures against mistyping it. But if you lose it, if you forget it, then your funds are lost for good. And it's something that we are improving in Trezor Suite. That's the new app we are working on. We have actually a public launch in beginning of June. And so the biggest challenge is basically to build the UX and UI so well that you really cannot get really confused in the process. But as you see, it happens, and it happens even to my closest one. So But then, again, that comes back to whether do you want to be your own bank? There comes some, like a security risk with that, or you believe to the system and you want to go that way. There's basically two different philosophical approaches.
Okay, thank you. This answer was very great. So it's all for me, but since we have other people watching, they also would like to ask you some questions. So I'm just gonna name, there are actually 4 of them. So the first one is if you plan to connect Trezor Suite also with the biggest exchanges like Binance or Coinbase.
Probably not with those. I think they're they're standalone standalone exchanges, but we have a third-party exchanges in Trezor Suite already that are called, I think, Changely, and I don't really know all the names because there's like a separate team working on it. But yeah, we basically integrate all these exchanges into Trezor Suite, which means you can buy, sell, exchange, or even buy some vouchers for crypto directly in Trezor Suite and send it straight to the Trezor. I mean, to the private keys that that manages the funds on the blockchain.
Okay. The second question: if you're planning to add Lightning Network support to Trezor, and if you know how to secure on-chain funds, and is it sufficient to store recovery seed on 4 LNTXs? I'm not sure what exactly it means, but I hope you understand it.
No idea, honestly, as well, because
Okay.
I'm not as technical as some of my colleagues. So as for the Lightning in general, we are working on a separate mobile app that will actually be like you can think of it like as a peer-to-peer mobile app. We will also integrate it in Trezor Suite. So yeah, that's an option, or like more like an item on the roadmap, because there are already some development has started.
Okay, thank you. So we go on with the third question, and it's about how you learned about Bitcoin, if you learned it on your own, and if so, which sources have you used, and if you would recommend some of them.
Yeah, so I'm basically Googling around. That's I guess the biggest part of it. A huge source of sort of information for me are the developers themselves, because like I mentioned, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a technical person. I'm a dumb musician in a way. So the working with the developers is amazing, because they can show you on the screen what's really happening in the app and how it connects all together. So that's awesome. Also, learning from the users and from their needs is really interesting. So because there are some kind of hardcore Bitcoin features that we built as well, and they're not really being used as often, but it is sort of the part of the feature set that we have to deliver, because it may make happy some other users. And also, what comes to mind, we just started working with the guy named Josef Titik. I don't know if you heard of him, but he's basically like a blogger, YouTuber that has built a sort of knowledge around Bitcoin. So he has some really good articles, I think published on Alza as well. so that I think I can recommend as a Czech specific source.
Okay, thank you. So I guess we have a question from David. David, if you just wanted to ask it now.
Oh yeah, thank you. Hello, Matěj. I want to ask you about the CoinJoin. You mentioned you are working on Trezor, right? So isn't CoinJoin a little bit like risky from the point that maybe your exchange won't accept your Bitcoin if you want to sell, or like they will ask you like why did you made a CoinJoin? Did you sell drugs, weapons, or
It's a very good question. It really depends where you sending the funds from, or to, basically. So it's a fair point that some exchanges may reject these anonymized transactions. On the other side, you can also be sending them from Trezor to Trezor, for example. It doesn't necessarily be to an exchange. As a matter of fact, you would probably do not want to like send your funds to basically any place where the keys are stored on the server. So the use case would be sending it to it could be peer-to-peer to anybody who owns a hardware device and is self-sovereign. So there is no entity sort of governing whether that particular transaction is okay or not okay based on their rules. So yeah, but yeah, it's a fair point. It's depending really where you're sending it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so the fourth question is, if you plan a new device with possibility to use it from mobile app, or I think he means like to connect maybe to the mobile phone, like a lightning connector or something like that.
Yeah, so I guess the question is around this thing. You need to connect it, through like a USB-C to your computer, and it's kind of bulky. But I can say we are working on a new device that would have a Bluetooth connectivity. It's just very early stage, and I cannot really tell you more about it because it's still kind of a secret-ish project. But yeah, something on the roadmap as well.
So we'll see it in the near future.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The fifth question is, what is on your roadmap for the next year, and this year as well? And what are you looking forward to the most?
Yeah, so one of the most interesting thing is the CoinJoin I mentioned. We are also working on a full node support, which means you would be able to connect through Trezor Suite to Bitcoin Core directly, which is nice because it's kind of a safer way how the app really connects to the whole like a blockchain network. We also just hired a new React Native developer, meaning we will be able to build a mobile app. It will be Android app, and you would still have to connect the device with your with the cable with the mobile phone. But it's really interesting because we haven't had a mobile app up until now, and they've already design ready. We just didn't have the dev capacity to kick off the project, and right now we just hired a really interesting profile to help us deliver that. We also working on the translations. We want to scale the projects, the app, globally to different markets, and translations definitely help with that. And we have a bunch of sort of technological projects that such as I mentioned, the sort of making the firmwares on Model 1 and Model D as one. So we call it like a backport, basically. Yeah. So that would be sort of like a one program that would run on both of those devices, and that's basically one of the. I think that's the key projects. I mean, there's definitely smaller items on the roadmap, such as the public launch, because that's on the that will happen on June 9th, I think. And there's a bunch of things that we are improving, such as the Trezor onboarding. I know the whole process when you buy the device and then you sort of initiate it, and it walks you through, how you all do that, how you do that, and it sort of explain you how to do that. So that's been an interesting project that we've been working on good past six months, because it's really hard because we have so many different devices. I mean, we have two main models, but there are different firmware versions that are out there, because usually people would use it to store the coins, and then they wouldn't use the device for another year. And when they open it, it needs to work. It needs to connect to the to the app, and they need to be able to update the software. So I was just saying that Trezor onboarding is difficult, but it's going to be introduced now. And I would say like the main event that I'm looking forward to is really the launch, because That's going to happen beginning of June, and it will mark the 2 years I've been with the company, and it's the project I've been working on for the past 2 years. So I'm kind of excited about that, naturally.
Yeah, I guess we're all going to be excited about it. Oh, already are.
Thanks.
Yeah. So the next question is if you're planning to integrate with a disk. I'm not sure if I'm reading it correctly. It's a BISQ, which is a TCP decentralized exchange.
I think again that would have to. I don't really know. It could be the other company. I mean, we have a company called Innovity.io in the portfolio. We're like 3 companies: the chip makers, the Trezor hardware vault maker, and Innovity.io. That it's bringing all these. I mean, the claim of the company is like onboard, like a new users to crypto in general. So I don't really know if that's on their roadmap. I guess it might be the case because I've heard about it, so might be.
Okay, and we have the last question about Trezor Suite. So people are interested if you and when you're actually going to add the Czech language there.
It's a good point. I mean, it's funny. I really have to make a note and make it happen and translate it myself, because I was thinking I never really thought about Czech language. We have all these languages on the list, but I have never thought about Czech language. Yeah, good point. So, I mean, no promises, because I'm bad on delivering promises, because I always think things will take shorter than they actually will at the end. But I think in July, I think we could deliver it, because for this release we are really busy. We have to get many things going. But yeah, I think we should make it Czech for sure very soon. So thanks for the idea.
Yeah,
for the request.
Thank you. And the last question so far is has the company ever gotten hacked? The Trezor, I think.
Yeah, so not on a big scale. Maybe you heard about a Ledger hack. Our biggest competitor, Ledger. Somebody hacked their database of like usernames, and I think it was email addresses and actually physical addresses, which was kind of scary, because the people then got actually they would get like a weird messages such as I know where you live, send your Bitcoin here and there, which is like really scary and not nice for sure. So that never happened to us. We kind of, one of the claims that we have, sort of how is it? I forgot. Like basically the saying says like you cannot really get robbed of something you don't own. So if you don't have the data, it can really get stolen. So on our eShop, we basically delete all the records after 90 days. So we don't really store any, like a database. We only store them for the reasons of, for example, if you wanted to get a refund or something on then we have the data, but then it gets deleted. And so yeah, it haven't happened, but yeah, I'm sure there's people trying. So, but yeah, I mean, we are at the end, crypto security company, and we are trying to do everything in our capacity to avoid that.
Well, I feel like if you never get hacked, then your security is well enough. But there's always a way to improve. So yeah, basically it was the last question from what is it called again? Slido. Maybe if somebody else wants to ask Matěj personally, you can raise your hand and ask the question.
Or you can reach out on LinkedIn or wherever else if you guys want.
Okay, since you answered all the questions, so I would give the word to our teacher. Thank you once again for spending your time and answering all the questions. It was really interesting, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Matěj, that was really great discussion. Thank you for that. I will just wait one more minute if there will be somebody else who would like to ask, but it looks like that everything was said now. Yeah. Okay, then thank you for your time. Hope that we will be able to discuss with you maybe in the next semester or somehow somewhere in the future. And thank you again.
Thanks a lot for having me, and good luck in your careers and projects.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.